Tonight, political analyst and talk show host Mark Wignall shot and injured in a drive-by shooting on Red Hills Road this morning. Still tonight, EOJ reports that the final counting of ballots for the September 3 general election is now complete for all 63 constituencies. And TAJ closes its office located at Twickenham Park, Spanish Town for deep cleaning and sanitization after a member of staff tests positive for COVID-19. Good evening. Political analyst and talk show host Mark Wignall was shot in a drive-by shooting that occurred on Red Hills Road in St. Andrew this morning. Reports coming into our news center are that Mr. Wignall was in the area popularly known as Common when armed men in a motor vehicle drove by and opened fire, shooting Mr. Wignall and two other persons. Police reports are that Wignall received a flesh wound, while the other men received more serious injuries. In news from the capital, a taxi operator was shot and injured along Constant Spring Road in the vicinity of Scotiabank yesterday. Reports are that at approximately 9:40 p.m., the armed men boarded a taxi at Whitehall Avenue. Upon arriving at Constant Spring Road, they shot the taxi operator twice and then fled. It is further reported that the taxi operator managed to drive himself to the Constant Spring police station, where he was assisted to the hospital. His condition is said to be serious. In news from St. Thomas, a man was killed and his attacker is now in police custody following a stabbing incident at the Morant Bay Market yesterday. Now the deceased has been identified as 39-year-old Elroy Williams of Friendship Pen in the parish. Police reports coming into our news center tonight are that sometime after 1 p.m., Mr. Williams was standing along West Street when he was allegedly attacked by the suspect, who reportedly used a knife to stab him in the neck. It's further reported that Williams, after being stabbed, ran and later collapsed inside the market. Mr. Williams was assisted to the hospital by the police, where he was pronounced dead. His attacker subsequently turned himself into the police. Still making news tonight, a magisterial recount for the Westmoreland Eastern constituency has been set for Friday. Now, lawyers representing the Jamaica Labour Party filed the application earlier today. The JLP is also expected to file applications for magisterial recounts in St. Anne Southeastern, where the PNP's Lisa Hanna won by 32 votes following the final count of ballots, and St. Catherine Northwestern, where the PNP's Hugh Graham secured 5,283 votes to Newton Amos of the JLP's 5,261. In other news tonight, the Electoral Office of Jamaica, EOJ, is reporting that the final counting of ballots for the September 3 general election is now complete for all 63 constituencies. In a statement released earlier today, the EOJ says based upon the final count, the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, won 48 seats, while the People's National Party, PNP, secured 15. Under Section 47 of the Representation of the People's Act, an application for a magisterial recount may be filed within 4 days after the date upon which the returning officer declares a candidate elected. Still making Mello TV news, following the recount of ballots for the September 3 general election, our news team spoke with the People's National Party's PNP's Member of Parliament-elect for St. Andrew Southwestern, Mrs. Angela Brown-Burke. More on this story with Colleen May.
Member of Parliament-elect for St. Andrew Southwestern, Mrs. Angela Brown-Burke, says that she believes the party's loss was due to internal issues.
We have not all come to terms with the issues that face us. I think we have to go back to even some of the national polls that were being done and what those were saying and what were some of the issues that we dismissed at that time. I hear some persons saying that the challenge was a part of the problem, and I believe that we have to go before that. What would have made the challenge happen? What were some of the reasons? Yeah, and then of course, even with the challenge and post the challenge, there are some individuals, whether they would have supported one Peter or the other, who I thought did not let go sufficiently, and we have to look at that.
Mrs. Brown-Burke also gave her opinion on the concept of safe seats in the People's National Party.
We shouldn't even be talking about safe seats. There are seats where we have traditionally enjoyed a majority, but that should never be taken for granted. We must always remember that we serve at the will of the people, and to be able to do that satisfactorily, we have to engage them. We have to engage them with purpose. We have to engage them authentically from the heart and with an interest in the things that affect them, and be strident in making sure that their lives are better because of our intervention.
Mrs. Brown-Burke expressed her views on how the PNP plans to be an effective opposition.
Regardless of the small number of us who will be in Parliament, we have to become the champions of the Jamaican people. They must know that the 15 are not afraid of the others that are there, but we are there to do one single job: protect the interests of the Jamaican people, ensure that we have equitable education, ensure that there are opportunities for all, not just for a few, ensure that there is employment and employment opportunities for the majority of our individuals, whether they are in rural Jamaica, whether they are in Kingston, uptown, downtown, round town. That is the role of the opposition, and we have to take it seriously. And I have confidence that even with 15 of us in Parliament, we will be able to do that job satisfactorily to the satisfaction of the Jamaican people.
Reporting for Mello TV News, I'm Colleen May.
Meanwhile, earlier today, our news team spoke with Member of Parliament-elect for Manchester Central, the Jamaica Labour Party's Rhoda Moy Crawford, and Vice President of the People's National Party, Damion Crawford, about their post-election plans. More on this story with Colleen May.
Member of Parliament-elect for Manchester Central, Rhoda Moy Crawford, outlined the strategies she used to defeat the People's National Party PNP heavyweight Peter Bunting by almost 1,000 votes in the September 3 general election.
The strategy was to do a PD by PD analysis of the last 3 elections in all the divisions, and then we looked closely at the PDs that we would usually lose badly, those that were marginal, and those that we usually win by a lot of votes. And the ones that we usually struggling, we spent extra time there.
Rhoda Moy Crawford further shared a few areas in her constituency that she will immediately address as Member of Parliament.
My first order of business, now that I have won, of course, is to tackle the water issue. Of course, I'll be focusing on road rehabilitation, and I will be focusing on access to education and training, while focusing on community development, and that will see the inclusion of sporting activities, regularization of the garbage collection, looking at ways to help the small farmers. Those are the priority issues. Those are the immediate focus. And of course, I'll be paying attention to the internet connectivity in the communities.
Meanwhile, Vice President for the People's National Party, Damion Crawford, outlined his views on the outcome of the September 3 general election.
We're extremely disappointed with the outcomes of the election. I must say personally, I didn't see the level of the defeat coming, and I was even hopeful for a victory. So they're very disappointed. I'm somewhat hurt by the outcome, but also hopeful for the rebuilding that will take place within the People's National Party.
Mr. Crawford also shared the PNP's plans regarding new leadership.
I've had one officers meeting. We're hopeful to find some consensus, at least in the short term, and we're having those discussions. As you know, we have the local government elections, which is due in November, so we have to face that. And we have a duty to our 60,000 workers to go back around the country, interact with them, and mourn as well with them. Many have taken it very hard because just not the fact of it, but also the shock of it has affected some of our members. So I think that we have a more urgent duty to handle that constellation and that keeping together of the workforce of the People's National Party, and to seek to defend as much of the parish councils as we can, understanding how Jamaica operates in the main, where the parish council normally goes where the government goes.
Reporting from Mello TV News, I'm Colleen May.
Still making news tonight, the People's National Party's PNP's General Secretary, Julian Robinson, has recovered from COVID-19. Mr. Robinson was forced to work from home during the latter stages of the general election campaign after testing positive for COVID-19 in late August. The PNP, in a statement released yesterday, said Mr. Robinson has been cleared to resume his normal duties. In news from St. Catherine, Tax Administration Jamaica, TAJ, closed its Spanish Town tax office located at Twickenham Park today for deep cleaning and sanitization after a member of staff tested positive for the novel coronavirus COVID-19. In a statement released yesterday, the TAJ said that members of staff who may have been exposed will be advised to self-quarantine for 14 days. Now, the TAJ says the Spanish Town tax office will be reopened tomorrow and is reminding taxpayers that several transactions may be conducted using TAJ's tax portal at www.jamaicatax.gov.jm. Back in the capital, the National Commercial Bank Jamaica Limited, NCB, has closed their Duke Street branch in downtown Kingston following the confirmation of a positive COVID-19 test for one of its employees. Now, NCB, in a statement released earlier today, said the affected employee was initially tested by the Ministry of Health and Wellness and received a negative result and was cleared to return to work. NCB says it has now updated its protocols requiring any employee who tested for COVID-19 to also receive results from a retest or a second test before being cleared to return to work. And those were the stories making news. I return with a recap. We'll now take a break and then join Christopher Scott with sports.